Tapped In Media. What a freaking interview.
That was an awesome interview.
Yeah, I mean, despite the echo shit, but I'll figure that out. You know what I mean? That was... We'll get it.
I mean, we're always running into some technical...
It's always technical stuff with us.
That's why I call you technical disaster.
How dare you? Whatever.
It goes with the name.
I know, man. And, you know, we try and bring it. You know what I mean? So, but, you know, that was really cool for him to stop by. Chicano Hollywood Film Festival is definitely coming out soon. And we would love for you guys to go and check it out. We put a link on our YouTube channel. And,
that's right.
And we put it on our IG, right?
That is correct.
So we'll keep it up on there. So you guys got to check it out and definitely support that. They're doing really good things for the community. And we hope that they keep coming back to our studios here at Tapped In Media.
Yeah, I mean, he gave us great insight, you know, when it comes down to the, you know, Hollywood industry.
No doubt.
The film industry.
No doubt.
You know,
I mean,
there was a great story and very informative. All the stories that he gave us. I mean, it's awesome. So definitely want to check out that interview with us. And also make sure you guys follow us on tappedin_media on IG and on TikTok. Same thing. And of course, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button.
Absolutely. Please do that. It does help the show and helps out our channel. Thanks to our sponsors of the show, of course, Cafe Del Cid. Go to cafe or delcidcoffee.com. Use promo code tappedin_media. This way, she knows that we sent you there, and her coffee is awesome. Big shout out to her, Sydney. She's amazing. She's very, very cool. To get your discount. And also, Upland Nutrition.
Shout out to our people at
man.
Upland Nutrition. Make sure you guys also go check them out. If you're in the local area, of course, in the Inland Empire, they are in Upland. So make sure you guys go and get some of that protein shake. Get some of them protein donuts, them protein waffles. They're delicious. I know what I'm telling you.
Man, that's a pretty good ad. You always run that one all the time,
dude. I'm telling you, it's really good. Their hydration drinks,
you love them.
Gotta go get them.
Love it.
I'm telling you.
Big shout out to Andy Q, our production director, who is not with us on this particular episode, but with us on many other episodes. He was getting an award today, so I guess we'll give him a pass on this one.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
I guess.
Whatever, Andy. But thanks, man, for letting us use the studios as always and taking care of us and making us look the way we look these days. It's pretty cool. It's nice to be right here in 3P Studio.
Yep.
Not with the S. Did I get that right?
3P Studio.
Yeah, because I put the S on it and he gave me that look like, come on, dude. How long you been doing this? Our next guest, though, let's do it.
So our next guest is former police officer, former lieutenant.
Come on now, man.
And this is somebody who I became close with. And I talked to him at one point and he shared his story with me. And I was like, dude, I got to have you on.
We're about to get that story, huh?
Yeah, we're about to get this story going. It's a great story, especially the fact that how he came about and how he made his come up and how he built his own career here in the good old U.S. Please welcome Mo Duran to Tapped In Media.
Yeah. Right on, Mo.
All right. Well,
how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me in.
Welcome. Well, it's good to have you, man. We've been talking about it for a while now.
So obviously, you and I talked over the phone. I remember talking over the phone, and we went on for like over an hour conversation.
Wow.
Over an hour conversation.
Ro can talk, right?
I mean, the majority was...
We both can talk.
Yeah.
Nice.
So when he was telling me his story, I was like, wait, dude, like, I didn't know that you were an immigrant here.
Oh, yeah.
You came from Colombia.
I was born in Colombia, Bogota.
So you came here legally then, or no? How? Okay, you were illegal, or how did that work?
So my mom brought me. My family immigrated to New York from Colombia in the late 60s, early 70s.
Okay.
Started with my aunt, my uncle, some of my cousins, and then my mom. We all followed. It's my mom's side of the family. Excuse me. And so, sorry about that.
Trust me, I'm having the same issue.
Let me get the lieutenant some water. Hold tight.
You keep telling.
Okay, so we landed in New York City in Queens, New York, and it was late 60s. I was about about a little over 2 years old when we landed in New York. And, you know, we ended up going through the process. We had to go through the whole, you know, green card process and everything. I remember having to travel because back then, in order to enter the country, you had to go through the process. You had to come in through a port of entry. I remember going to Canada. My mom, we had to go all the way to Canada to do a point of entry.
That was a long process.
Right.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, I mean, I don't know the exact beginning. You know, I was way too young for that. And, but I remember going to Canada. I still have my Colombian passport. So I had that from when we had to enter from through Canada with the passport to show to get the visa, go through the visa process, go through the naturalization process and get a green card. And I got my citizenship when I was in the Marine Corps. So I was actually in the Marine Corps when I applied for my citizenship.
No way. So you were a Marine.
Yeah.
That's how that's how it started for you then.
But prior to all that, growing up in New York, how was it for you?
Oh, you know, it's funny when you're young, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know that time was completely different. We're talking about 70s into the 80s. You don't realize where we were culturally as a country, right? And when I say we, I mean overall. I don't look at it as, you know, being Latino, Hispanic, whatever, however you want to refer to yourself. But I look at it as overall, the community I was in. So we moved to an area of New York that at one time used to be Irish, then it was Italian. When we moved in, literally across the street, it kind of was a little bit of a divide. And it was as you started going more, I'm trying to get my bearings, so I guess it would be east from my block, just going east a couple of blocks, it started going more into like the black community. So I grew up with a lot of black friends.
Yeah.
The majority of my friends were either black, Puerto Rican. We had a few white friends because a lot of the white people that lived in that area just kind of migrated out, right? And then a lot of minorities were living there, but it wasn't like a rundown ghetto or anything like that. We had a nice house. I mean, I just went to go look it up on Trulia to see it, and it's actually blurred because I guess whoever lives there wanted privacy, you know.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But, you know,
that's an extra cost.
I mean, you know, it was I grew up in a house. Like, you don't think about that. You know, like when you don't think about being young, coming, you know, as an immigrant and having an opportunity to live in a house in New York is really odd. I mean, that is really, really odd.
Because most of the stuff is like flats and sorry to interrupt you on that, right? Like or like apartments or townhouses.
Yeah. You see a lot of apartments. You don't back then you didn't see a lot of condos, but what you did have were co-ops. So the difference between a condo and a co-op is a co-op was an apartment building where they started selling the apartments. So imagine living in an apartment building that you know, you used to pay rent and everybody paid rent to the same landlord. Well, now you could buy your apartment, but you still lived within the same building. So those were co-ops, and some of my families lived in co-ops. You know, my family, I'm very proud to say that my family did very, very well, and I attribute that to it has to be my grandmother, because this is all my mom's side of the family.
Okay.
Right. And my grandfather died when I was really young, so I didn't really have a big bond with him. I did have a bond more with my grandmother. She lived on. My grandmother lived till she was 90,
okay.
and she moved to New York also. So I mean, I was around my grandmother a lot. So I would have to say my grandmother, being the matriarch of the family, is the one that instilled it. And I know that it is instilled in the family because everybody in my family did well. Everybody did. Nice. It wasn't just, but everybody had their own different type of struggle. And when I say my family did well, I have a cousin that retired years ago as a vice president of a major bank, and she did really well. And I have, you know, all my cousins have done very, very well. My family in general did very well, which when you think about the fact that we all immigrated, my kids are first generation American.
Yeah.
So in my family, on my mom's side, predominantly women. Okay? So when I was growing up, it was my mom. She had 3 sisters. right?
Okay, yeah.
Let's see, 1, 2, yeah, 3 sisters. Now, one of my aunts stayed in Colombia. The other aunts all moved to New York. We all lived real close to each other. Now, my mom had 3 kids. She had my older brother, my older sister, and then me. My other aunt had 1 daughter. My other aunt has a daughter and a son, and her daughter is a published nutritionist that goes on. You can find her online. She does a lot of stuff dealing with diabetes in the Latino community. So that's her thing, and she's very well known in her her area, her area of expertise. And then my other cousin, the one my aunt that I was the most closest to, my Aunt Lily, she had 4 girls and 2 boys. So it really wasn't a lot of boys in my family. It was mostly women.
Yeah.
And again, things you don't think about till you get much older and you see
course.
how it all affects your life, right? Because at the end of the day, we are a culmination of all of our experiences.
Yeah,
That's how we're built. That's how we end up becoming who we are as we progress.
Right.
Yeah, so you're in New York, right? And you go. Did you enlist in the Marine Corps after high school, or how did that come about?
So I was a latchkey kid. So let me tell you. So, and again, I don't want to draw it on.
No,
long,
John, let's hear it.
But I can tell you, I'm sure you're going to edit, so you can always edit it down. You got time, I got time. So I remember back then. You also got to remember that immigration laws were a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I say that because immigration nowadays is different than it was back then.
Right.
And I remember this because at one given time, I know that we were on food stamps. I'm talking old school food stamps.
Yeah, with the book.
Money,
The book.
Yeah.
I was so embarrassed to
staple
use
book.
those.
Yeah, and I was embarrassed too, but we weren't on it for a long time. So I remember my mom worked cleaning houses.
Mm-hmm.
My mom worked at Leviton, the company that makes the light switches.
Oh, okay.
She worked there. My mom worked, she worked a variety of different jobs because it was just my mom and I. And we lived in my godmother's house. So the house that I lived in belonged to my godmother. My mom and my godmother were very close. And what ended up happening was my godmother's father passed away. He left the house to both my mom and my godmother because my mom was very close to the family.
Mm-hmm. And she seems like she was a hustler, so it's like she's gonna have money to take care of things.
I'm gonna tell you,
responsible.
Anybody who knows or is willing to tell you the story of my mom, her name was Carmen. Anybody who can tell you the story about Carmen will amaze you because my mom was a force. Mm-hmm. And when I say a force, I can tell you she was fearless.
Right.
I saw her get into fist fights with people. I mean, fist fights, like
she's tough,
full on fist. And she was a smaller lady. She wasn't a big lady.
When we spoke over the phone, I mean, this conversation was about like moms, grandma, all that. So he's got a story.
Oh, and I didn't learn a lot of like. Again, like I said, when you're growing up, you don't realize these things. I didn't learn a lot about my family early origins until I was older because I was so caught up in just trying to be that I wasn't paying attention to it. So where we live, my aunt and my sister was very close with my Aunt Lily also. She still is. She moved close to where my aunt lived and she would stay over there. My brother was older than me. My brother had his daughter a month before I was born. So you have an idea what the age difference is.
Oh, okay, yeah. Very close though.
So I'm closer to my niece's age. She's actually older than I am by like a month. But so I kind of grew up, even though I had siblings, I grew up as an only child because my brother was an adult when I was born. My sister was an adult. They both were married, had their own lives. So I was growing up by myself. And then my mom worked and I was left unattended because my mom had to work.
Well,
right?
yeah, I mean.
And again, I give her, back then, I didn't know what I thought about it. But now when I look back, the sacrifices that this woman made.
Yeah, for sure.
It definitely molded me to be who I am. And it molded me to raise my kids with good experiences and bad experiences that I took away from it.
Do your kids appreciate that now? And I'm sure you talked to them about it before. Like, do you know, like the fact that your mom came over here, their grandmother, you know, and was an immigrant, worked hard, put all this, you know, effort into it, and built up, you know, so many, you know, successful people, like your successful relatives, like based on her, you know, her hard work ethics, you know. Do they appreciate that now?
I believe that my kids do, and I'll go into detail on that as we go further on, because I don't want the story to jump, right? It's like watching a bad movie where it just bounces all over the place.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get to the part where a little bit of stability fell into my life, where I knew that the food stamps were no longer around.
Mm-hmm.
So my mother got an opportunity at driving a taxi in New York City. She was the second woman taxi driver in New York City.
Wow.
So if you don't know how the taxi industry is in New York City, there's only a certain amount of taxis in New York, because in order to drive a yellow taxi, you have to have a medallion.
Mm-hmm.
You actually have to have a medallion on your car to be able to do it. I know that things have changed now that we have rideshare and everything else,
Right.
but back then, they were the ones that had the right to work throughout the entire city, all the airports, everything. And so my mom started as a taxi driver, right? But she had to hustle, and she was out there. She was out there 5 o'clock in the morning. She wouldn't get home sometimes till 10 o'clock at night.
Damn.
Wow.
And I was a true latchkey kid. So
No
for those
doubt.
people who don't know what a latchkey kid is, it's a kid who, the reason why they called us latchkey kids is because we had a key to the house, right? Back then we didn't have electric locks or anything
Nope.
like that. We had a key to the house. We wrapped it around a chain or a rope, and we put it around our neck because you didn't want to lose the key.
Right.
And that's why they called us latchkey
Latchkey
kids.
kids, yeah.
And I wasn't the only one. I mean, a lot of my friends were also latchkey kids.
Yeah, the
It
parents
was-
got to go and make some money.
It was during a time when the world's transitioning, you know, where you could no longer support a family with a single income. So,
Nope.
you know, my friends that were fortunate, I had a lot of friends that had mom and dad with them, but they both worked. And so me and my group of friends, all we did was run the streets. That's all we did. And it started out innocently, right? You know, I remember as a little kid, we would play soldiers, right? It would snow, and that was the best time. Schools were closed, and we'd don our gear. We had our toy guns, and we'd play.
That's cool.
And we literally would play soldiers, right? And then, you know, hide and seek, manhunt, kick the can, all of that. Then we'd play street football, right? We didn't have pads. We couldn't afford to
Yeah.
play. We couldn't afford to play Pop Warner or
Out there
anything like that.
playing instead of playing video games all night.
And you know, I gotta say that my childhood, it didn't lack when it came to my friends. It really didn't. And I was blessed because, like I said, I had a diverse group of friends, right? And relationships, racial relationships were different. And I did not notice that until I joined the Marine Corps.
Ah, because you saw a lot of that.
We'll see it. We'll get to that point. So, growing up, you know, hanging out with my friends, everything was cool. But as we started getting older, we started doing dumb stuff. And I definitely won't go into the dumb stuff that we did because, number one, it's not stuff that I'm proud of.
Right. But that's the stuff we want to hear, Lieutenant. I'm just kidding.
I know
I'm
it's
totally
stuff-
messing with you right there.
I know it is, but you know what? Though?
You know what? We'll push it around. We always do.
No, and that's cool. But I will tell you this: had I not experienced what I experienced growing up,
Right.
I don't think I would have been as successful as I am in my career in law enforcement, dealing with the public.
Understanding
I
that.
can go into just about any neighborhood and associate with anybody. Now, will I get challenged when I first get there? Yes. It happened to me when I started my career in law enforcement, right? And then the minute I start talking with people and start saying, oh, you think I don't understand, or you want to call me racist, or this, that, or the other. And I'm like, no. Let's get a little bit deeper into this. I remember it was Christmas time. My friends were out capering. They were just, it was beginning to get a little bit out of control. And I started noticing
So they started getting into more trouble than normal.
illegal stuff.
More
More illegal
yeah,
stuff. So,
harder stuff.
So, you know, it ended up, my buddy ended up in contact with law enforcement. It was law enforcement contact. And I'll never forget this. So the cop at the time had my friend. He had his gun out. He had his gun against my friend, the back of my friend's head like this. And he pushed him against the car, and the gun went off, and it shot upwards.
Oh.
And I knew, I was like, it was a come to Jesus moment for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I thought about it, and I'm like, dude,
That's so scary.
I can't. Yeah, I mean, I love this guy like he was my brother. He passed away during COVID. So,
Oh my gosh.
and I loved him like he was my brother. I mean, he was my brother. I remember getting jumped when I was at the end of my 9th grade year. I got jumped by a bunch of guys from a neighboring city.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a guy that used to be in one of my classes, and he just, I don't know what it was something random, and I ended up getting, and it was supposed to be a one-on-one fight, and that was cool to fight him, but people kept warning me, hey, he's gonna try and jump you. And I'm like, well, and I told my friend, my friend showed up, he was the one that stayed with me. So of course, it started off as a one-on-one. I was wrestling at that time. I got the better of him, and it got broken up really fast. His cousin was a good friend of mine. His cousin's like, okay, it's done. And I'm like, okay, cool, we're done. I wanted it to be done because I figured if it's done, they're not going to jump me. And they went their way, I went my way. I bent down to tie my shoes because my shoes got untied. And I was next to a car, and I was like, I hear a group of people just running. And they chased, half of my friends took off running because they didn't want to get jumped. But my best friend stayed with me. And I got jumped. And I just remember we both got our asses kicked.
Yeah.
But he stood with me and got his ass kicked with me.
And you stayed friends with him until he passed away in 2020? Oh.
Yeah, so
that's cool, man. That's a good trustworthy guy.
So, I knew that I had to leave. And so I enlisted. And then my uncle came to me. I was living in my friend's house. My uncle came to me, and I was in high school, man. I was struggling, dude. I struggled throughout all of school because remember, again, immigrant kid doesn't have a family support system that could tell him how to do homework.
Right.
All right. And
some help.
I mean, I'm fortunate. I'm one of the few fortunate people. English is my second language. You would never know it. You would think Spanish is my second language. Now I get around my family and I start speaking Spanish, and you're like, wait a minute. Because usually one gives up the other one.
Mm-hmm.
You talk to everybody else in my family, they have that little accent.
Yeah.
They speak English, they use all the right words, but you can hear the Latino accent in the background. I don't have that, right? But if I get around them and I start speaking, you hear it come out.
Comes back.
A lot of my family left New York, so some of my family lives in Jersey, a lot live in Florida. I got a cousin that lives in Arizona. So, if we all get together, things change. All of a sudden you hear the New York accent start coming out, and every now and then my wife's like,
awesome.
hey, what do you want to drink today? I said, I want a coffee. And she's like, well, what? And I'm like, shut the hell up, man. Don't be messing. Go open the drawer and shut up, dude. Don't make fun of me, right? So, but anyway.
Your roots come back.
The roots do come back.
That's right.
And so I made my mind up that I wanted to leave. And, I went to go see, because I was thinking, okay, what do I want to do? I wanted to go to college. I knew I wanted to go to college at some point. I just didn't know when, and I wasn't even 100% sure because I did horribly in high school. I have my high school transcripts. Every now and then I look at them and I'm like ashamed. But
trust me, I look at mine. I'm like,
but I will.
What the hell was I doing? Yeah. Same.
But I made up for it. A little bit further into the story. So I said, screw this, I'm going to join the Marine Corps. So I went to the recruiter and I was talking to him about enlisting. At that same time, my uncle came to me. He goes, hey, listen, your mom really wants you to move back in. And I said, I understand, Theo, but I can't live with her, dude.
Right.
It's like,
you needed that independence.
And he says, and my uncle was the only person that my mother respected enough to listen to. Like, she actually listened to him. My mom was a banshee, and my aunt is just as bad. And apparently my grandmother was worse, but I never experienced it with my grandma. Like my grandmother, dude, my grandmother loved the boys in the family. She had nothing but girls. The boys were treated like little kings, right?
It's like that in the Latino community.
Yeah, because they have all these girls and like, oh my God, we need the boy.
So my abuela used to treat me like a little king, and I loved it, right?
Of course.
But the funny thing was that my aunt always protected me. My Aunt Lily always protected me. And that was my uncle Micha. His name is Mike, but his name is Micha. And he came to me and he's like, hey, I was talking to your mom, your mom, she's worried about you. And I said, he goes, she misses you. And I said, I get it, but, you know, and he's like, I talked to her. Give it a shot. And I said, okay. So what ended up happening was I went back home and I thought about it and I said, okay, look, I said, I'm paying these other people. I said, and I came to the realization, look, my mom works hard. So I'll give her a little bit of money and I'll do some chores. Mm-hmm. And basically it was what she wanted me to do originally, but I think she was real restrictive with some of the stuff, but you know, we always had dogs, dude. We had 5 dogs in New York City. And you know, if you don't know about 5 dogs in the winter in the backyard when they're taking a crap in the snow, you can't just pick up the snow, the poop. It gets into the ice. You got to chisel it. I mean, it was a chore. It was.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I wouldn't do it.
There was chores that were dreadful, in my opinion, right? Maybe. It
oh no, it sounds dreadful already. I agree.
But you know what though? My mom left me alone. She gave me. I took over the basement. I had the basement was my room.
That's cool.
And she left me alone, and I said, okay. Now I appreciate her, and so I started doing so. And I told my mom I was joining the Marine Corps, and she was so against it. My mother did not want me to join the Marine Corps, and she did not want me to be a cop, ever.
And you did both.
I ended up doing both. So
that's crazy.
So my mom, I got to join the Marine Corps because I was gonna. The only reason why the Marine Corps went ahead and took me was because I was turning 18 in boot camp. I graduated high school, and I turned 18 in boot camp.
Wow!
I was in second phase in the rifle range in Paris Island,
and they were all about it.
And they were. But you also got to remember one thing is that I went in the Marine Corps in 1985. We did not have a significant major event since Vietnam.
It's true.
So
most of them have been just conflict or some sort of proxy.
Right. So you know, I went in the Marine Corps. I was like, I told my mom, she wasn't for it, and I told her, I said, I want to be able to have a college education if I want to. I want to be able to do this, that, or the other.
Something to back it up.
And you know what? My mom accepted it. I have a picture of me and my mom at my graduation, at my boot camp graduation.
That's cool.
And she was there for me. I mean,
good for her though to do that.
I give her the love. She was there for me.
Right on.
And then so fast forward, I joined the Marine Corps. I was dumb. I got married at 18.
Hey,
she wasn't. She wasn't about that, but she did like my ex-wife a lot. So, you know, and
so she was right.
She was no. It was my ex-wife and I.
Well, for that part,
my ex-wife and I were young. We were too young. Again,
for sure.
Things that you don't think about,
right.
You know, without the experience, right?
Absolutely.
And if somebody would have told me, "Hey, don't do it," prime example. One of my kids, I'm like, "Hey, I wouldn't do that if I were." Like when my oldest son went in the Marine Corps, I was like, "Hey, dude, go in the Marine Corps." I go, "You have 0 ties. Go have fun. Be safe. Explore the world. Have fun."
Mm-hmm.
He got married.
Oh man,
it didn't work. It didn't work out.
I said the apple don't fall far from the tree, right?
He was married before,
Huh.
it didn't work out. But you know what? Though, but it's a learning lesson. And I always joke that my kids are the type of kids that they have to burn themselves on the stove, because if I tell them the stove's going to burn them, they're not going to listen to me anyway. But I do it.
It's all about that experimenting part, right?
Yeah. So you know. So anyway, so I joined the Marine Corps, and then I knew when I joined the Marine Corps, I made one very conscious decision, was I wanted to get away from New York, and I wanted to go to the West Coast or Hawaii or Okinawa or wherever. I did not want to be in New York, because I knew that if I stayed in New York, I was going to get in trouble. You know, my friends used to smoke weed. I smoked weed with them a little bit, but weed was never my thing. But other drugs started coming around, and I was like,
too much.
I'm getting away from this stuff, you know.
Smart.
I feel like I'm blessed. Like I like to believe it was my mom that sits on my shoulder and always looks over me.
Yep.
But someone was looking over me before my mom passed away.
Yeah, no doubt.
because somebody, and I, again, I've been in a lot of religions, but I believe in God, but I don't believe in organized religion per se. But it was destiny, fate, whatever you want to call it, that gave me enough common sense to recognize I need to get away.
Yeah.
There was
Enough.
a calling for you.
There
And
was
it was
something
out there somewhere.
And so I left New York. I went to California. Now my best friend, I was like, hey, dude, you need to come out here with me. And so he tried to enlist in the Marine Corps, but he couldn't, because remember that incident where he got shot in the head?
Yeah,
that came up,
yeah.
and they were like, well, yeah, but he ended up joining the Navy.
Oh, okay.
So he joins the Navy, and he ends up in San Diego. I'm in Camp Pendleton. So I fly over to go see him.
Yep.
And
Nice.
it's funny because I went to go see him, and I'm wearing my he was getting ready to graduate, and I had my dress blues, but I was wearing my Charlies, right? So it's the tan shirt, short sleeve shirt. I have my hat, this, that, and the other. I'm in my car. I get over there, and these are young naval recruits getting ready to graduate, and they see me, and I'm wearing I was a Lance Corporal, I think. It must have been just a Lance Corporal. I mean, I wasn't. Lance Corporal is the backbone of the Marine Corps. I'll say it proudly. But
pretty much true, because my dad was Lance Corporal, so.
yeah, so I was a Lance Corporal, but I had my white cap on, and it had my white cover, and it had the Marine Corps Eagle, Globe, and Anchor on it, and they see brass, and they start saluting, and I'm like, why are you guys saluting me? I'm a Lance Corporal. I'm turning around like, who, am I missing something? I don't want to get yelled at, right?
They're all corporals or they're privates?
No, they're in boot camp. They're getting ready to graduate boot camp, but they don't know the rank structure from the Marine. They're not looking at the arms. They're looking at this emblem on my Eagle, Globe, and Anchor, and they're losing. They're like, oh my God, salute. And I was
They
like,
probably thought you were a captain. And
dude, I don't know what they thought, but so it's funny because I was there for his graduation, and then he was out there for school, and he and I went to a tattoo shop. So here's another mom moment. Never get a tattoo. You get a tattoo, you're not allowed back in my house. San Diego. Masters Tattoo, San Diego, downtown San Diego. I went with my best friend. I got my first tattoo, which was my Eagle, Globe, and Anchor on this side. It's my Eagle, Globe, and Anchor.
USMC, yep.
Right?
Hoorah.
And then I take my best friend with me, and he got a Navy anchor. So I got the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. He got the Navy anchor.
Oh, cool.
And then I end up going back again, and I got this heart, and obviously you see it's blacked out, right? So I got this heart, and then this fool, he picks Brooklyn Navy Yard as his duty station.
so he
man.
went back.
He went back.
Yeah.
And you were bummed. I would have been bummed.
First of all, I was pissed because I was like, dude, this is like my brother, dude. Like my best friend, my brother, but I knew that was like the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
Because exactly the reason why I didn't want to go back was the reason why he ended up going back. He was, you're that close to home, on your weekends, you're at home.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like you lose your mind and you're like, well, maybe I want to call in sick on Monday. Well, you don't call in sick in the military. You show your ass up. And if you're sick in formation. So he ended up getting into trouble. And, I was like,
That sucks.
And then I never went back to New York to live. I stayed in
You
California.
stayed out here.
Yeah. Experienced the Gulf War. I was one of the first flights of Marines to go to. I was actually in the first flight of Marines to go to Saudi Arabia. We were supposed to go to Diego Garcia, get on MPS ships. We were actually supposed to go before the Gulf War, we were supposed to go to Turkey on an operation. Ended up going to Saudi Arabia, and my mom nearly lost her shit. And, And
because at the time Saudi Arabia was a no place for any American to be in.
No,
none.
And then of course, now we're in a war and nobody knows what's going. We didn't know what was going on. It was scary.
Isn't that weird how the Saudis now
It was the
don't?
Gulf War, right?
Yeah. Isn't it weird though how the Saudis want nothing to do with what's going on right now over there? They're like, hey, we're good.
No, they know what's up.
They know what's up, but they're like, we don't want to do nothing really. We just kind of want to hang out. We kind of like what's going on with because They like the Western culture. They're digging that people are coming there. They're visiting. They like the tourism.
Well, they
now.
like the capitalism.
Who knew?
Well, let me tell you something. Saudi Arabia is a very rich country.
Of course.
But not everybody's rich, but it is a very, very rich country.
I think they just like the change.
I remember my MOS was heavy equipment operator, not heavy equipment. I used to drive semis,
Mm-hmm.
so we used to haul heavy equipment. I mean, like I used to, haul tanks, dozers, fuel, explosives, all of that stuff. And I get on the. We used to call it the I-5 because we're stupid and it's the only freeway we know. So we call it the I-5
the
because it's the
5.
main freeway, right? Because it's the only way we
Runs
can
right
associate.
right by Camp Pendleton.
Yeah, so in Saudi Arabia, we're calling this thing the I-5. It's not the I-5. It's the main freeway that goes from the port of Jubail all the way up to Kafji to the Kuwait border, right? So we're on this freeway, and you're driving, and you're like looking around, and only see two types of cars. They're all white, and they only see two types of cars: Chevy Caprice, Mercedes Benz.
Interesting.
And I'm talking nice Mercedes Benzes.
Yeah.
But over there, it's like a Mercedes Benz over there is like a Honda. It's like a
Damn.
Toyota. It's like nothing. It's like nothing. So anyway, I did the whole go for it thing. I remember calling my mom the day before we went into Kuwait. I went to Saudi Arabia before it had a name. So I was there before it was Operation Desert Shield.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was there during Operation Desert Shield, and I was there during Operation Desert Storm. And then we went into Kuwait with the breach. I called her from Kafji.
Oh, wow.
I was able
you
to
guys
get
made it up there.
We were on the border. We were able to
Yep.
get to a phone. I called her up. I said, "Hey, Mom, I'm just, letting you know this. I can't go into details, but I'm okay right now. There'll be some news out tomorrow. I'll give you a call as soon as I can." She freaked the fuck out.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I don't blame her because I would have done the same thing.
I mean, you kind of left her. You kind of left her hanging dry.
I had because
Little
mail-
bit.
You got to remember, mail was it wasn't getting moved fast because
Right.
we were moving, and so mail has to come in country, and then it's kind of got to follow you around, and you're constantly moving, so it's got to keep following you around. So anyway, long story short, I end up out there. I end up, coming back, and they gave us the Kuwaiti Liberation Medal. So we received a medal from the U.S. government, which is the Southwest Asia Service Medal, but then the Kuwaiti government gave us the Kuwaiti Liberation Medal. So we came back, and I gave the medal to my mom because and she carried it with her everywhere. She literally, when she died, I got it back in her stuff.
Aww.
She had it with her everywhere she went.
So as much as she might have been against it,
She was
still
proud of
proud.
her boy.
Oh, she was beyond proud of me, and I got a lot of her stuff. I had a yearbook from when I graduated boot camp. She had a copy of it,
Right.
and she had circled me, and I still have that yearbook. She circled me. Actually, I just gave that yearbook to my youngest daughter, but my youngest daughter reminds me of my mom. She's the same. She's a free spirit, fire, and she's like, and she loves, like, she wants to know about her family. And so we just moved to Arizona, so I was unloading a bunch of boxes, and my daughter was there, and she's like looking at it, and she goes, "This is cool." I go, "Do you want it?" She goes, "I absolutely want it." But this is the one my mom had because she like circled me and everything.
Yep.
She wanted to make
highlighted it.
Yeah, and everything that's nostalgic, she had it. So she showed lots of love, dude. Lots and lots of love. So I get out of the Marine. My time is coming up at the end of my Marine Corps career, and I wanted to get out and go into law enforcement. And I told her that, and she's like, "I don't want you to be a cop." And I'm like, "It's a calling." I wanted to be I took the test to be NYPD, but I was too young. I mean, I took the test and I passed the test, but I couldn't get hired because I was under the age. So that's another reason why I decided to go into the Marine Corps. So she always knew that I had an inkling to go into law enforcement, but she just didn't want it. And the only other thing she didn't want is she didn't want me on a motorcycle. I've owned two of them.
All the stuff that would hurt you and possibly kill you that she didn't want you to do.
and I own
and you did them all.
I own two motorcycles.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So anyway, I end up getting ready to get out of the Marine Corps.
Everything she was against, he did it all.
Exactly.
So I'm getting out of the Marine Corps, and I had a choice to make. I could either re-enlist or get out. They wouldn't let me extend. I wanted to extend just 1 year because I was starting the testing process with LA County Sheriffs, and I ended up making the decision to get out. So I got out of the Marine Corps, and the same day I left the Marine Corps, I got a job driving a tow truck in Walnut, at Walnut Valley Towing. So because I drove
Oh yeah,
equipment.
the high,
He drove the big rigs.
the big, yeah.
And I got out on terminal leave. I did not need to work because I had like a month and a half of paid time coming to me. But I was like, I literally left Camp Pendleton with one of my friends that got out the same day. He lived in Commerce. I lived in Pico Rivera with my ex-wife. This is now wife number 2.
Nice.
And I lived in Pico Rivera with her family, and or that's where we were going to go because I got out of the Marine Corps. We were living in Oceanside, so now we're going to come over here. And so we left Camp Pendleton. I drove to Walnut. I go to put in an application, tell the guy, hey, I just got out of the Marine Corps. I need a job. He goes, you're hired. He didn't even ask me. He goes, you're hired. And he looks at my friend. He goes,
pretty cool.
He looks at my friend. He goes, did you just get out of the Marine Corps? My friend goes, hell yeah. He goes, you're hired too. He goes, I don't want a job. He goes, you're hired anyway. And he got a job with me.
Damn.
Got into the towing industry. Eventually, I left Pico Rivera. My ex-wife and I left Pico Rivera. We moved to Ontario because her aunt lived in Ontario. We both had to work. Her aunt would watch my son and my daughter, my 2 oldest kids. And so I ended up working for a tow company in Upland. And then eventually I worked for them for a few years. Now my mom, again, these are all the things my mom instilled in me. Always do better.
Right.
So I told her one day, I said, and she was happy I was in towing because I was in law enforcement. And I told her, I said, I'm thinking about starting my own business. And she goes, how much money do you need? And I'm like, no, I'm doing this on my own. And she's like, how much money do you need? And so I sat down and came up with a business plan to figure it out. And I'm like, the bare minimum, my bare minimum, the smallest I could do, I said, the minimum or the most that I'm going to ask for is the minimum that I'm going to need, which is $5,000. $5,000 start. And I'm like, so I took the money, but I was like, I don't want to use the money. I put the money aside. And I said, how do I go about this? So I start hitting up tow companies and, looking at where they buy their equipment. I went to a distribution center out in Fontana, and they were like, oh, no, you're not going to be able to do it. But I've always had good credit. My mom, again, another thing that she instilled in me is like, your word is your bond. That is the only thing you have in this world.
Word is bond.
That is the only thing you have. If you tell somebody you're going to do something, you better do it.
Do it. Yeah.
Because otherwise, they will not believe what you have to say. So I was always good about paying my bills. My mom taught me how to do that. When I first came to California, I was scared. I was 18 years old. I didn't know what I was doing. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And I just thought about what I saw my mom doing, and I started doing it, and it worked. To this day, I have 7-8 bank accounts. Every month, I manually reconcile each bank account.
Wow.
Damn.
To
7
this day,
to 8?
I don't do. Oh yeah, because I own two LLCs, so I do the business LLCs, and then I separate monies. Like I have my own personal account. I have a joint account with my wife that we use for the house. I have an account with a credit. I have two accounts with credit unions that are law enforcement related credit unions. I have one of them. I put money aside for my grandkids, and I even break it down for them. And I mean that one's an easy one to reconcile because I know how old they are. So
Yeah.
every month I put a little bit of money aside for them, so I know how old
That's
they are.
pretty cool, though.
But each bank account, I reconcile it. And I'm the guy that I break out the statement and I reconcile all of it. It'll take me a few hours to do it every month.
Yeah, but you're on top of it, and
I reconcile it to the penny. Nowadays, people don't do that. They're like, they open up their app. Oh, I got money in there. Well, if everything doesn't clear the day that you do it, you don't always have money.
Sometimes
It's
I wish
true.
those apps were a little more helpful, though. If I'm looking at the damn thing, well, why can't I just click that off? That transaction is true.
Yeah.
That transaction is true.
Yeah.
That transaction is true.
So-
No, I got to go in there and start
So-
doing the reconciling, like on your own.
Yeah,
That's like a balancing your checkbook back in the day when, with the check register.
I
when
still
you open it.
balance my checkbook.
Like the way
I do that.
Really?
That's called reconciling your bank account.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
The only difference is I don't use the paper check. I use an
Gotcha.
Excel sheet. But
Okay.
Each one of my bank accounts has an Excel sheet, so I basically reconcile
That's
up
pretty
the
cool.
statement to that and to the penny. To the penny.
Funny that you bring that up because I saw a story about you in when you were at Upland Upland PD. I'm glad you brought it up because I was going to bring it up, but I was kind of like waiting to position it, but then you brought it up, and I'm like, oh, perfect. you were recognized for doing something like that for Upland PD, because before you got there, they were on an old system of the way they tracked hours for employees and how many hours an employee worked or whatever it was. And it was for a multi-day payroll or some sort of thing. And you came up with a system.
No. I didn't.
Not, you implemented a system.
I helped. So I'll tell you. Okay, I'll tell you what happened.
Yeah.
I was not part of the initial implementation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can't take credit for that. What happened was my captain, the staff, they were tasked with trying to find we were old school. We were each employee had a paper pay sheet, and we'd track their hours.
Insane.
And then we submit it to City Hall, and then they take that or we submit it to our finance person at the department. The finance person puts it on an Excel sheet. They send it to City Hall. It goes through the system, and that's how they cut our checks.
Right.
So they wanted something for staffing, for scheduling. And so they were looking at different programs. And normally when we do something like that, we put together a committee, and they go out to different agencies and look and see what everybody's using. So they had already started that. This happened before I promoted to lieutenant. At the time I was a sergeant. I was in charge of traffic. So I ended up getting promoted to lieutenant, and my captain went out on an extended leave, and I got tasked with taking over his duties. So I was the administrative services commander for a while until he came back. And so all of a sudden this project falls in my lap. And I didn't know, I wasn't part of the process with him. So I didn't know, like, had I known they were just looking at doing it for scheduling, I would have been like, okay, it's just for scheduling. But I looked at you give me a project, I'm going to look at the entire project, and then I want to maximize it, right? So I got into it, and we actually ended up implementing it for our payroll side too. And so, yeah, I did catch a lot of...
It says here that the impact that it made, it reduced payroll processing by over 2 days. So before it would take them 32 hours before. He implemented a system, and now it just takes him about 5 hours to do this payroll stuff. And you brought up, like,
where did you see this?
Oh yeah,
I've never seen this. Where did you find this?
I'm reading it right here. Look,
where did you find this?
Look at that.
He's stunned.
Oh, power! Yeah.
I'm reading it. I see that you got an award for it. They recognized you for it. The whole bit. When he told me, when we do this thing here, that if we find out that somebody does, their upbringing, their story, that's what we want. But at the same time, we're always going to hit you a little curveball and be like,
we'll try to dig
we
something.
got something else on you. Check this out.
Yeah.
This is what we found. It's not going to be terrible. We try not to, go with like that way, but I thought it was pretty cool. And then it's funny you brought it up, and I'm like, oh, there it is. I'm like, that's what I need, because
you know why he likes it so much though, is because he's an Excel nerd.
Okay,
right.
So,
he's an Excel nerd.
Yeah.
So let me tell you. So
spreadsheet
nerd.
Right.
This interview's gone on a long time.
Yeah.
I told you I can talk.
Yeah, I know. I can tell. I'm with it.
I know you're gonna edit it. Okay, so look, dude, I have to be on a plane at 9 a.m. As long as I get on the plane at 9 a.m, we're good. Okay, you got time, I got time.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna like speed it up for you just so that we can get to where you need to be.
Yeah.
Because the there's some stuff that I'm gonna come back to a little bit I'll tie a lot of things in. But so my mom is like all about me starting my own business, and I ended up applying for a loan. Everybody's telling me you're not gonna be able to do this, and I'm like, oh, okay. And for a minute I almost believed them, and I'm like, and my mom's like, Who are you proving it to? Are you proving it to you, or are you proving it to everybody else? And I'm like, well, I'm proving it to me. And she's like, well, then get up there and get to going. Like,
yeah, get to work on it.
Yeah, like, get on it. So I put in an application, and I had really good credit. And they're like, you're approved. I'm like,
wow.
What? And they're like, you're approved. And I'm like, shit. So now I got to call insurance. And how much is it for insurance? How much is the truck payment going to be? How much is this? How much is this? And now I got to figure out my home expenses, right? Because I got to...
The ball's starting to move,
I got a boss. I got kids. And I'm like... And this is around the era where I'm now on wife number 3.
Oh.
That's a whole nother story. We'll go into that. We'll go into that later on. All of this actually has an impact in my life also, because I'm going to tell you some other stuff, dude. I'm gonna tell you some stuff. It is actually quite funny. But anyway, so I'm like, I mean, I'm like, I was scared. So I almost talked myself out of doing it. And I was trying to, I always say, before you do something, before you commit to something, think about the worst case scenario. If you could live with the worst case scenario, go for it. Because then but that's the point, is you don't come in with false hopes, being like, oh man, I got this. I'm just gonna do this with no backup plan. You do that, your life's gonna suck.
Yeah.
But the worst case scenario for you would be what exactly? Going bankrupt?
It's like, yeah, I mean, how am I gonna make the money? How am I gonna be, I mean, I always figured it out. I'm like,
how am I gonna pay it back?
Exactly. And this is why I didn't want to touch my mom's money. And my mom told me, she goes, this is a gift. And I was like, no, because my mom can get mean and nasty. So what's a gift today could turn into something she holds against me later on.
Tomorrow, yeah.
And she actually did do that. So when I finally went to go use this, so my mom, you talk about my mom being proud. I buy the truck. It was a real difficult conversation, because originally I was going to start the tow company in the high desert. So my boss at the tow company in Upland was kind of cool with it, but they were like looking at me like, oh, and this is the reason why it happened, is I used to work my ass off. So we used to get paid a salary during the day, commission at night. And a lot of the guys didn't want to work at night. Me, I hustled. I made more money at night than I made during the day. But at a certain point I got to it and I'm like, dude, I'm working like, I'm dedicated to this 24 hours a day. If I'm going to do it, I may as well do it for myself.
Yeah, why not?
And so I ended up deciding I was going to do it for myself. So it wasn't a surprise to them that I wanted to do it, but they were worried, because what do you always think about your competition? What are they going to do? Are they going to go after your accounts? Are they going to try and cutthroat you?
They're going to try and bring a slash the price on you.
So initially my goal was I was going to go up to the high desert, and then I decided not to. I decided to stay inside the city. And so I had to sit down with them and I said, listen, you guys treated me good, like family. Like they did. It was Martinez Towing, the Martinez family. Very classy family, dude. They treated me good. And I told them, I said, I'm not here to screw you over. I believe in loyalty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I believe in treating people right. I have a tattoo right here. It's all about karma. What goes around comes around, right? I'm like, they treat me good, I'm not going to burn them. And
for sure.
And so they were happy for me. They were cautious with me. Mm-hmm. So I buy my tow truck, and I knew a lot of people in the area in different fields, and people were like genuinely happy for me. And they're like I wanted to paint my truck. I wanted to design it, and they're like, bring it here, we'll help you. And my mom,
that's pretty cool.
My mom flew from New York out here and was with me when I went to go pick up my tow truck. She was so happy,
she was
right?
so proud, I'm
so
sure.
good.
She was proud. And so fast forward 6 months. So and I stayed to my promise, because every now and then an account that used to be with one company, they hit me up, hey, can you come do a tow for us? And I'm like, did you call them first? And they're like, yeah, they're super busy. And I'm like, all right, let me call you right back. And I get on the phone, and I'm like, hey, you're calling me. Like, I told you I'm not going to do this to you.
Undercut,
and you know what? They gave me the blessing, and I'm like, as long as you give me the blessing. I go, worst case scenario, if you want them to do it through you and you want to sub it to me, I'll do it. I said, but you treated me good. So I don't want to burn you. I don't want you to feel like I'm here to burn you. And they were very gracious about it. I know it wasn't really the easiest thing in the world, but they were, and they're very classy people. And you know what? I show a lot of love to them, because they did treat me good, and they gave me that break.
They gave you that lift.
They did. They gave me the lift. And so I started my
Absolutely.
tow company. I had my tow company for 9 years in Upland, almost 9.5 years. And it was Duran's Towing and Transport. And I started out with one truck. One truck ended up with 2 trucks, 2 trucks, 3 trucks. Tried to get it up to 5 trucks to get the police tow contract. I had an automotive business also with it, but I hated automotive work. I got away from the automotive. We did repossessions. I didn't like repossessions.
Yeah, it's tough.
So I survived without a police contract. I survived without AAA. I had good clients. I had some big name clients. I mean, people, we developed a good reputation. And at one point, my mom came, we were going to a trade show in Vegas. I got involved with the California Tow Truck Association, which is a big association that deals in the towing industry. And I was very active. And so I became a vice president with the chapter. We had several vice presidents. I was one of the vice presidents. And we had this big trade show in Vegas, and my mom comes out, and I'll never forget it. She shows up, gets off the plane. We get to the house, and she's like, so are you going to buy another truck? And I'm like, Mom, I'm going to go look at this stuff, right? I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to buy a truck. Bro, she pulled 30 grand out of her bag, and I'm like,
What?
cash. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're not even allowed to fly with that much money. Like, what
true.
are you doing?
She's crazy.
She's like, we need to get trucks going. And I'm like, we need to calm the hell down.
Damn.
Like, I mean,
She believed in it.
She did.
She was in.
She did. And you know, my initial plan was I wanted her to retire. I wanted to buy a property with a casita,
Love it.
take care of her so she doesn't have to work, and whatever she gave me as an investment was going to be for me to support her. But I
That's
didn't
cool.
but I never took the money. She ended. We went to the trade show. It was cool. She was like anxious. She was wanting me to buy like 5 more trucks, and I'm like, no.
This
no,
money,
no.
this 30K that she got, was that money that she saved for retirement?
Yeah, my mom worked very hard, and
But she knew her investment.
she knew her investment, and my mom always kept large amounts of cash because things happened in the past where cash was necessary. So, and that's an offline story. But anyway, so you know, my mom wanted, and the reason why her and I stopped talking 2 years before she died, my mom had quit smoking and drinking when we were in the church thing, but now fast forward, she started drinking, and she started drinking like heavily, and we got into a big fight, and she threw the $5,000 thing about the $5,000 in my face, and I told her, I said, you told me it was a gift. I told you I didn't want it.
Right.
Even when I didn't use it, you got on me about using it, and I told you don't ever throw it in my face. This fury came out of her. And when I say a fury, bro, I'm telling you, it is a fury. You see this look, you're like, oh shit, get out of the way.
Yeah.
Carmen's on a rampage. Okay?
Damn. Yeah.
Carmen is going for it. And we got into a big fight that night. She was supposed to leave the next morning, and I couldn't. I mean, she threw a lit cigarette at me.
Oh,
and
that's too much,
I was
man.
like,
That's over the top.
and it was so over the top. I told her,
Yeah.
I said she had to leave. So my wife then took her to the airport and left her at Ontario Airport. And as soon as she left,
man.
I picked up the phone and I called my aunt, and I'm like, I'm letting you know what happened. And she goes, I told your mother not to go over there. Wait till she gets back. I told her not to go down there, and I even told her if she goes down there not to start any shit. And at the time, I wasn't married to my ex-wife yet. We were getting ready to get married. And and you know, that was it was hard for me because that was the last conversation I had with her.
That's unfortunate, man. I always tell myself too, like
So
I
ended
never
on a
want
bad
to
note.
ever end that way.
Yeah.
That's always hard.
And
But she did, you know, try to do what she can for you. She just got a little out of hand, you know.
my
And that
mom,
happens.
my mom had an interesting life, and that's a whole different story. My mom had an interesting life, a very, very interesting life. Yeah,
Tough.
and
Tell us so. Okay, well, I mean, we only got a few minutes.
So you went from having a booming business.
Yeah.
But you still went.
I always wanted to be a cop. And what happened was I had gotten divorced from the second wife, and dude, she made my life a miserable hell. Trying to get hired, it was like she made allegations and
Wow.
allegations of abuse, right? And it started with, oh, he's verbally abusive, and you know, of course, when you're in backgrounds, they're going to check all that. And then I'm like, would I say certain things? Yeah, I told him. I said I did say these things. I go.
Yeah.
But did she tell you what led to it? And I don't want to blast her on a
Right.
podcast, but
Yeah.
you know, I can tell you about it offline, and you'll be like,
Yeah.
dude, and it'd be like, and there was no love there. Trust me, there was a lot of betrayal, no love, and I made the mistake of telling her, if I get hired as a cop, I'm going to take the kids away from you.
Damn.
So
That's real as
That's
it comes.
kind of where you.
yeah. I kind of walked away from the idea of being a cop for a while, and I really enjoyed having my tow company. But then 2004 came around, or actually 2003, the economy started getting better. Getting good employees was getting harder and harder. I hired a guy who ended up being a really good employee for me. And it's funny because my ex-wife was my partner in the business. I set it up as a partnership because I had an ex-wife that was going to come after me for money, right? So I was smart enough to know to set it up as a partnership, as a legal partnership, and eventually incorporate, which I ended up doing. But she was with me when I hired this one cat, and he actually lived out here in Pomona, not too far from here. And he showed up, and he was a young Mexican kid, and I mean, he was rough around the edges, and he's like, look, I got a young family and I just need to work. And I was like, are you going to show up every day? He's like, yeah. I said, are you going to steal from me? He's like, I'll never steal from you. He goes, if I need it, I'm going to ask you for it. I'm not going to steal from you.
That's fair. Yeah.
I said, okay, you're hired. And he ended up leaving. And my wife goes, because it was in summertime, so we had the lights down. And my wife goes, I am utterly surprised you hired him. And I go, why? She goes, you didn't see all the tattoos on his face? Like, well, I mean, he was blasted. He was blasted from a neighborhood, not a neighborhood here. He lived in this neighborhood, but he wasn't blasted from here. Mm-hmm. He was blasted different part. And he came to work, and I trained him because I didn't like hiring drivers with experience. Experienced drivers bring bad habits.
Yeah,
I take a new driver and teach him how to do it.
Somewhat true though. I mean,
and you know what, dude?
It's easier
his
that way.
name was Carlos, and that cat worked his ass off for me. And then he got enticed to go. I hired another guy later on, and that guy got this bright idea. I'm gonna start my own tow company, and took Carlos with him.
With him.
And you know, and then it started falling apart. Like I started getting drivers who just didn't want to work, and I drug test. I'm putting somebody out in expensive equipment with a liability behind
you're
it.
You're liable.
You're pissing in a cup.
Yep.
I'm telling you right now. I'll piss in a cup. You're pissing in a cup. And I just got to the point where I started downsizing because I was getting frustrated with I was getting frustrated with drivers. You can't count on people. And so I said, you know what? Let me look at the cop thing. And then I saw that I could put myself through as a pre-service. And I said, I think I'm going to try this. So I started selling off my equipment, but I kept one truck because I had to have my safety net. I told my accounts, I go, hey, I think I'm going to try being a cop. And they're like, I mean, I was older, dude. I was 36 years old.
Yeah.
And they're like, we support you. And they're like, hey, if you want to do it, you know, we understand.
We could talk about DJ stuff all day.
Yeah.
You know, I know I can, and I know I don't want to leave him out of the
No, it's all good.
so
I
much, you know
mean,
what I mean?
Go for it.
But, you know, in New York City, you had brought that up that, you know, you were out there having a good time, DJing, growing up, doing all that stuff. And then I'm trying to, like, put together how did it lead to, like, law enforcement in, like, that direction?
Well,
like
the Marines specifically.
Well, yeah, I mean, or the Marines, yeah.
So as we started getting a little bit older, our interests started changing, right?
Yeah.
So the next logical thing is we start getting into driving cars.
Okay, yeah, okay,
cars.
yeah.
And, you know, when you get into cars and you don't have money, things happen, right?
For sure.
I mean, I remember.
I think I put that together.
I remember we escalated from playing football. We all got bicycles and we started riding all around the neighborhood on our bicycles, right? And then a few of us kicked in a bunch of money together to get this cheap little motorized scooter that we would take turns riding. Didn't even have brakes. We wore the soles out of all of our shoes riding this thing around because it was motorized. And then eventually from there, we got into wanting to drive. And, you know, I started noticing the pattern where as we started getting older, we started doing more and more stupid stuff.
No doubt.
And you know, at first it's all fun and games and you don't really think about the impact of it, but it was daring. It was stupid. I remember the police getting involved.
Wow.
And, you know, I mean, I grew up in a neighborhood where the cops weren't really nice. So we were, you know, just like nowadays you see how some people have anti-police sentiment.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it was no different when I was growing up. And But I came across a couple of cops that were actually really cool. And they started talking to me, and they're like, you know, they quickly figured out there was no, my male role model was my uncle. But I didn't see him all the time because he was my aunt's husband. And, you know, he was my male role model. And to this day, I in my eyes, he was the one that helped mold me with regards to what a man should do. And I'm eternally grateful to him for that. And I tell him this every now and then, and I know it chokes him up because it's been a long time. But I started getting into trouble, and it's the life of my mom started getting really hard because she was still working. And then, like, my mom was mean, and you got to remember, coming from South America, child abuse laws aren't the same, right? In South America, they'll beat your ass.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And when I say they'll beat your ass, my mom whooped my ass.
I mean, it's funny now, but it's not funny then.
But no, I mean, I look at it now, and I can reflect on it. But I told you, she was a fearless woman.
Right.
She was
Trying to keep her son in line. I mean,
she was trying to keep me in line. She was mean.
Mm-hmm.
She had a mean side to her. She also had a very sweet side to her, but the mean side came out the most. And I attribute that to her having the stress of having to provide for a family by herself.
Yeah,
Of
well, it's
course.
a single mother, taxi driver, cleaning.
And so what ended up happening, my mom ended up buying her own medallion, her own taxi medallion, which is a feat in itself because, you know, like I told you, there's only a certain number of them.
Right.
And so in order for you to own your own, you have to wait till it comes up. You got to buy it, and you had to come up with money. And how she did it to this day, because I didn't really pay attention to what was going on, it still amazes me. It doesn't surprise me, though, because I have done similar things moving forward in life. And I only can accredit that to watching my mother, but not having that firsthand knowledge of how she did it. There are things that trigger in my mind, things that I remember, because my mom passed away. My mom passed away 26 years ago. Mm-hmm. So, and when she died, her and I hadn't been talking for 2 years. We had gotten into a big fight. So well, let me back up because I'm gonna go in different directions. So my mom and I, you know, I started growing up, and every teenager, every teenage boy starts growing up. They want to start becoming an independent man, right?
Right.
It's natural when you go into adulthood, and it wasn't working that way with her because in her mind, she was out hustling. And she wanted me to clean the house. And again, we had a house, right? It wasn't a big house. It's probably under 1,100 square foot of a house, but it's 3 stories, right?
But she was still expecting you to do these things around the house. But by yourself, I mean.
But by myself. And it wasn't just that, because I'm going to tell you right now, anybody that knows me will tell you I hate chandeliers. I will never put a chandelier in my house. And
all right. I've never heard that before.
My mom had a bunch of chandeliers. And when they would get dirty, she wanted me to literally take all the pieces off, wash them with soap and water, clean them off, and put it. This was my mom, and I don't know if this was just my mom's way of trying to tie me up so I wouldn't be out on the street, or if it was just her expectation. But regardless,
OCD as well.
It could be
possibly
OCD.
not a bad technique.
It could be a lot of different things, but oftentimes the end result was me getting my ass whooped because. I don't know if it was the stress of coming home or whatever it was. And you know what? I mean, I harbor feelings about it.
Of course.
But, and it got to a point when I was 15 years old. I had gotten a job. My mom actually helped me get the job at a gas station that was around the block from the house where she used to go get gas for her taxi. So they needed somebody to pump gas. So they hired me. So she liked the idea because it kept me off the street.
And you had a job and you're bringing in money.
I had a job, right?
Yeah.
So I had a little gig pumping gas.
Very cool.
Summertime came around, and I had a friend who had the ice cream truck, the Mr. Softy ice cream truck.
Oh, cool. Soft serves.
Who did the route on my block. He let me come on and do some work with him. right? So I got to ride on the Mr. Softy ice cream truck. You know, I thought I was the shit. I'm trying to make ice cream. I can't make the cones that good. But,
Yeah.
but I had a little job. I got to take home some leftover ice cream every day. Eventually, it got to be where I hated ice cream, but I still think Mr. Softy is one of the best. And then there was trouble between me and my mom because my mom started getting very like. She just started getting really nuts about me doing stuff and like I just couldn't handle it.
Were you not home a lot? Is that maybe
no,
why?
I mean, I would do my chores, but then I would do the chores, but then she just, as I got older, it felt like she was trying to control me even more and more, and it got to the point I just remember that she tried to whoop my ass, and I was already at the point where I grabbed her to stop her, and I knew, this is not good. This is not good.
Right.
I'm trying to hold her, and it's like, and she's like, you don't like my rules, get out. And I said, I'm out, and I left. So I was about 15 and a half, somewhere around there, and I ended up leaving.
That's young, man.
And my friend that lived across the street from me, Bradley, he came from a house, mom and dad and everything. His dad worked for the bus company, the MTA.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a good family, but he was one of my best friends growing up. And I'm talking to him, and he was like, we had a friend that had his family had a house, and in the basement they had rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And dude's like, I'll rent you a room. It's $60. I think it was like $60 a week. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to pull this off. And Bradley's like, I'll go stay with you. And his dad was like, go ahead. And so he helped me $30 a week, pay the rent. So we were best friends, and we're splitting this little tiny room, but it was cool because we got to be around.
You're on your own.
He was my partner that I used to rap with all the time. So we were together all the time. But I needed to make more money. And how I managed to not drop out of high school still amazes me, because I continued to go to high school. I worked at the gas station. Another friend of mine, his family was Haitian. They owned a restaurant right by LaGuardia Airport. And I got to work over there bussing tables. They taught me how to bartend. Originally, I was supposed to be a bar back, but they would do a lot of events, so they needed people to help bartend. So I got to bartend.
So you were bartending
at 15 and a half.
15.
Yeah, 15 and a half years old, right?
You could get away with it at that time, I guess.
then-
I mean, that's
back
the
then-
times, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it
This
wasn't
is-
like how it is now.
This is,
so
you're
specific.
talking 84.
Yeah,
Well,
so
let me see.
specific.
No, it'd be 82, right around 1982, give or
Mhm.
take. And so I was doing that, and then, luckily for me, I think, and I'm not a super religious person. I grew up in a lot of different religions too. That was another thing. My mother tried to balance life with religion. So I started off, I was baptized in the Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm.
Started off with Catholicism. We, at some point, were in the Methodist Church for a while.
Random.
And then eventually from the Methodist Church, we ended up in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And I grew up in most of my formative years in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And then for some reason, actually, my brother was the one who introduced my mom to the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And so we did that for a while. And that actually helped me, because the Seventh-day Adventist Church has a program for their youth called the Pathfinders. So Pathfinders is like their version of Boy Scouts. And we got
Is that the one that they go out to recruit, or not? I don't know if they would call it recruiting, but
no. That's like the Mormons.
Yeah, those
and all
are
that.
Mormons.
no, it's different.
No. This is what we did is we did. It was similar to Boy Scouts. Like, you do a lot of stuff where you can earn merit badges and stuff. But it's paramilitary based, so you learn drill and stuff.
Oh.
And you get to go to encampments, and each church has their own. They have different conferences, right? And then within the conferences, you have your church and you have your group of Pathfinders that will compete against other churches in drill and stuff like that. I mean, it was odd. It was something to keep me occupied. And I'm glad that I kind of had that, because, it gave me an understanding of how to do stuff like that. I was also in the Civil Air Patrol. So I did Civil Air Patrol also, which it was easy for me because learning drill and Pathfinders, people that taught us drill and Pathfinders were people that had military experience. And then, so I learned how to do precision drill movements in the Pathfinders. Then I go into Civil Air Patrol, and Civil Air Patrol I remember learning my general orders through the Civil Air Patrol, because everybody uses the same general orders, right? So I learned them, but you have to memorize them. And I learned that during the Civil Air Patrol. So all these little different experiences. But as I started getting older into my later teen years, I was fortunate that I was working, because while I was working, my friends were out capering.
Right.
And had I not been working, I would have been with them. And one of the turning points for me, my best friend, they went to the airport and decided they were going to boost a car. Now, when I say we did stupid stuff, like we lived a few blocks away from LaGuardia Airport. We would ride our bikes to the airport. We'd go up into the observation area
Towers,
where the towers where you could sit and watch the planes, and we'd watch people eat. They leave the tips. We'd walk by, snag the tips, because we didn't have money.
I mean,
So it's stupid stuff.
But still,
kid
yeah,
stuff,
that-
but this is what happens.
sounds harmless, but it's still, you shouldn't be doing it, right?
You shouldn't be doing it, but this is
Right.
what happens when you have a lack of guidance, and when you have a lack of a parental figure, and when you don't invest in your kids. This is the kind
That's
of
the type of stuff that happens, yeah.
And again, remember, I told you, I am a product of everything that has happened in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So all these experiences, I have a saying: I don't lose. I either win or I learn. I read that somewhere, and it sticks with me. I don't lose. I either win or I learn.
Because then there's something that comes a win out of that, which I get, because the experience of it is telling yourself, okay, this is how I learned, and that's how I won that experience. Because I see that. I like that, though. It's a good way to look, good outlook on life, to tell yourself that.
And you know what? I mean, taking these experiences, when I was raising my kids, trust me, I learned what I knew what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do with my kids before I even had kids. I grew up without a physical father.
Mm-hmm.
I still had a father figure, right, who showed me lots of love. So,
But not somebody that was there all the time, checking in.
but somebody that I admire, and
Right.
and to this day I still admire him. And so I knew I wanted to be someone that my kids admire. Physical discipline is always a necessity, in my opinion, because sometimes, I'm not going to say always, but sometimes it is, right? Because if you don't understand that there are consequences to your actions, then you don't fear the consequences. And that's
Correct.
a big problem in today's society.
Oh, a big problem.
And I know when that shift happened, I saw it. But, you know, what I learned from growing up with my mom was I wasn't going to beat my kids the way she beat me, because what she did to me was horrible. And
Do you think? I mean, and
Yeah, go ahead.
What I'm bringing that back to the physical discipline. Do you think that a lot of what we see today, right now, let's say, for instance, the ICE raids and the protesting, the stuff that's going on in LA, because a lot of them out there are pretty young. When you really look at all the content, all the stuff that's out there, video wise or whatever it is, and you're like, well, you know, the lack of discipline and the lack of like you know, they don't think that there's
no
consequences.
accountability. There's no accountability.
I know accountability, but I think
you
it's,
could see it out.
I think it's also the fact that these Chicanos that are out there doing this, that are American, probably have parents who are too busy maybe to keep an eye on what they're doing, because they're still just trying to work, right?
Right.
You get what I'm saying? And they're obviously, like you said, no accountability, but that's some of them, I'm not going to say all of them, but some of them have those parents where they probably just don't know exactly what their kid is up to.
True.
Because they're busy trying to work, you know, and just trying to do their thing.
Like you were saying.
But there are those that just take full on advantage and run off
With
of
that whole
emotion. And,
situation.
you know,
You know, when we talk about, I have very strong feelings about a lot of things that happen, especially a lot of things that I've seen throughout my military career, and a lot of things that I've seen in recent times. And I don't really, my feelings are pretty strong.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, a lot of people in California probably wouldn't agree with my feelings, but there's a reason for it. And I feel like I can speak on it because I was born in Colombia. I became a U.S. citizen here.
Yeah.
I served my country in the Marine Corps. I'm a combat veteran. I'm not a Afghanistan combat veteran. I was before that. I was Gulf War. I owned a business here in Upland before I was a police officer, and I always wanted to be a cop. So I put myself through the academy and became a police officer in this local area, and I did this for a long time. And then I finally retired in December. And
huge.
And you know, I mean, but I've seen the shift in the culture, and it amazes me because
right.
I mean, I know from growing up what can happen if you don't stay on top of things. You know, there's a saying I saw it just recently, and I've known it over time, but I've seen it, and it says, "Tough times build strong men."
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know that one?
Yeah, I've heard that. Like,
I've heard it.
And I don't want to misquote it, but it says, "Tough times build strong men. Strong men build." What is it? Oh my God, I forgot the entire saying. I don't want to butcher it, but if you want to look it up, you get a chance to look it up. It's called "Tough Times Build Strong Men," but it's true because it's cyclical. If you are not on top of things, you are going to repeat it. History repeats itself. We know this.
Right. That is
right.
That is very true.
So
yeah.
and when I say I don't really want to go into the
so it's hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times.
And it's true. It really is true because people don't understand the value of getting out of where they were at their lowest. If you think about it, right? It takes generations to make that change. It takes a long time. You don't make that change instantaneously. It doesn't happen overnight. But
no, like anything, right? I mean, it does take time for that type of stuff to happen.
Right. So you're talking about a long time to build it up to the strongest it can be, just for it to be disregarded and go downhill. I equate that to the paradox of life, right? And for those who don't know what the paradox of life is, it's quite simply this. If you don't understand sadness, you will never appreciate happiness. Oof. If you don't understand darkness, you're never going to appreciate the light. If you don't understand what it feels like to be poor, you'll never appreciate what it feels like to be rich. And if you think about it, people who are born rich don't give it value. I ended up deciding I wanted to put myself through the Sheriff's Academy, and I did. And it was hard. I mean, in your mind, you think that you could do things. Your body's telling you otherwise. You're 36 years old. You're not in the same shape you were in before. And I was overweight when I went into the academy. I was struggling mentally. Is this something I want to do? Because I don't even know if I'm going to get hired, right? I mean, I was already struggling trying to get hired because my ex-wife was making it difficult for me. It wasn't just that. It was that coming back from the Gulf War. They didn't know how we were going to behave and everything else. So I took a chance with it, and I was in the academy, and I got offered a job. And I didn't necessarily wanted to go there because I was like, it's not the agency I wanted. I actually applied with Pomona. I applied with Ontario. I applied with... I grew up in New York City. I wanted... action. I wanted big city, and I didn't end up going to the big city. I ended up going to a smaller city here in the Inland Empire.
But that's who you took the test with initially, or how did it work back then?
We tested with everybody that was offering tests, and they encourage you to do that because it gives you an opportunity to get exposure to the testing process. And it's important to do that because it makes you feel more comfortable with the process. Oftentimes you're going to fail because you're nervous about the process. The more you do it, the more accustomed you get to it, and then the easier it becomes for you. Right. It's not like you're cheating or anything. It's just that you're feeling more comfortable. You get to recognize, because it's not the same test over and over again, but you get to recognize what areas you're not strong in. And so if you're smart, you just correct it. So I end up going to the academy. I end up getting a job offer, and I did well in the academy. Academically, I was average, but I graduated top shooter, and it was a battle between me and one of my classmates. A an amazing guy that was in the academy with us. He was in the Army. I was in the Marine Corps. So, there's always that rivalry.
Of course.
He was in the afternoon group shooting. I was in the morning group shooting. And so since we're separate, everybody in my group knew that I shot well. Everybody in his group knew he shot well. Everybody in his group thought he was going to get top shooter. Everybody in my group's thinking I'm going to get top shooter. And it boils down to a shootout competition between him and I.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up winning. He would have beat me by time. He was faster than me, but he ejected a round accidentally. He ejected a round that counts as a miss because that means he couldn't deliver that round down range. And I ended up winning because we both shot equally well. 5 ring, bullseyes regularly. But he was 1 round short. And I ended up winning, and it sticks with me because his name was Sergeant Dominic Vaca, and he was killed 3 years ago in a foot pursuit. And it's again these little things that stick with you, right? Like,
what agency was he with?
San Bernardino County Sheriff's.
Oh my
So we
God.
went through San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, and it was not that long ago. It was during Memorial Weekend. And I remember coming back from the river when I got a phone call from one of my classmates, and they're like, hey, I don't know if you heard yet, but Dom got shot. And I'm like, how is he doing? And they go, we don't know. And I got back from the river,
Awful.
and I heard it wasn't going well, and got a unit from my job and went to the hospital, and we were there, and unfortunately he didn't make it. And this is part of the job. It's part of what you plan for when you do the job. So yeah, it was really difficult. But
Well, you were a lieutenant. Did you ever experience that on your own during your command?
as far as what,
When you were like anybody passing or
line of
line
duty?
of duty?
Line of fire.
I did not get into a shooting. There were a lot of close calls. I had an incident where we were going to effect a traffic stop on a vehicle. It came out as a guy was drinking and driving. It was a car with 3 guys in it and a girl and a baby. And the call was actually dispatched to my partner, but they said the car was on the corner of this intersection, and I'm at that intersection. I look over and I see the car. And I said, well, I get on the radio and I said, I'm here I was on my way to a call, and I said, I'm here. I can initiate the stop for the officer coming in, and then he could take it over, and I got to go to my call. I was bilingual, so I was going to a bilingual call. And they said, okay. So I go to stop the car, and I knew something was wrong. Like, something just wasn't right.
Yeah.
I go to stop the car, and it was earlier in my career too. It wasn't like deep into my career. It was within the first 5 years of my career. And I go to stop the car, and I remember stopping the car, and the car it pulled into a parking lot, but it didn't stop right away. And I'm like, something just doesn't feel right here. And when you get that little feeling in the back of your neck, trust it. Because your body,
instinct.
You're going in a hypersensitive mode. If your body is recognizing something that your mind isn't telling you yet, that's why that feeling comes out. And I got out of the car, and I started walking to the car, and I'm watching the language, and I'm like, no. And I pulled my gun, and I had my gun by my leg, but I'm watching everything because like I just didn't feel comfortable, and I just stopped, and I said, driver, turn the car off, put your keys out the window. And he's just looking at me, and I go, driver, turn the car off, put your keys on the window. And I look at the brake lights, and I see the brake lights, and he bolts. He takes off in the car. So
damn.
I get back to my car, put it out, and I lose him momentarily because he's like hauling ass through the parking lot, and I'm trying to catch up to him, and I end up losing him. But everybody was already en route because I had already started calling out for backup. And so we locked down the area pretty quickly. He ended up going in a parking lot across the street. I didn't see him going there, but another officer sees the car behind a building. So when he pulls up, 2 people jump out of the car and go over a wall. So we lock down the other side of the wall. It's a condo complex, so they lock that down. So I go around the other side. We're driving around looking for these dudes, and somebody points out to a house. So we go over there, we start looking, and we're not sure if they're in there, but everybody's pointing to this house. So We end up making entry through a window, an upstairs window. Neighbor gives us a ladder. We go up through the window. We make announcements, trying to get a hold of the owner, like trying to find out who the owner is, everything.
Right.
End up going in through the window. And it was me and 2 sergeants. At the time, they were sergeants. They ended up retiring. One retired as a captain, one retired as a lieutenant. But so I'm the boot officer, and they're my backup, and everybody else is like looking. We got the car stopped. We didn't know that the guy that was in the car that didn't run, because of the miscommunication issue, he didn't run, not because he wouldn't have ran. He didn't run because he had been shot in the stomach like a few days before, so he couldn't run. The girl was in the car and the baby was in the car, right? We ended up finding a gun in the car also, tucked in between the seats.
My God.
So we're clearing this house and we're going through the house, and we get to the downstairs and almost out the door, and we're like going through slowly, and I hear a noise in the bathroom, and I go by the bathroom and I check the door, it's locked. So back up, start giving them commands to come out. So I'm giving commands for them to come out, and then all of a sudden the door opens up and it's dark. I mean, a lot of training issues here that I learned that I would have done differently.
Right.
But my focus is, this is a fatal funnel. I got to be careful. So I'm giving them commands to come out. Now, we train a lot, and we had gone through some training. So my instinct was to turn them around and have them walk back to us, because you don't want to be walking down the hallway. You walk down the hallway, you limit yourself to that little 4 feet or 3 to 5 feet of space that you have between the 2 walls. You don't want to be in that position. That is the fatal funnel. So I want to call them back to me. But what happens is my veteran supervisors start giving them commands to get on the ground, which is typical, right? You always hear it, every cop movie, get on the ground, get on the ground. That's what they did. And then it's like, hey, go cuff them. And I'm like, and so I go to handcuff him. It's still dark, because for some stupid reason, we didn't turn the lights on. And in a way, I'm kind of glad we didn't. I don't know how it would have played out had we turned the lights on. So the door to the bathroom was cracked, and it opened this way, right? So it opened from left to right inwards. And the door was cracked because he came out. The other guy's still in the bathroom. I didn't know this. The other guy's still in the bathroom. So I bend down and I start handcuffing him, and all of a sudden I hear a pop and I see a muzzle flash. I see a flash. I ended up being a muzzle flash. And my heart sank. And I'm like, I grabbed this dude, and I don't even know what kind of I just drag him back. Like, I just grabbed him and dragged him, because I was scared to death. I didn't know what was going to happen.
Right.
And the door closes in the bathroom, and I'm like, what just happened? Well, the dude that was inside the bathroom was the guy that was driving the car, had a gun on him, and by the grace of God, he didn't decide to shoot me. He decided to shoot himself.
Oh, okay.
Oh my
Damn.
gosh, man.
And that was a real come to Jesus moment. And
For sure.
Yet another one.
Yet another one.
Absolutely.
And I either win or I learn. And that was a learning moment for me, because when I became a training officer, that never left my head. And every one of my trainees, that was something I instilled in them.
Right. That's that scenario is, it's something that you need to tell, especially a young cop coming in, right? Like, so that they know, like, these types of things can happen.
Yep.
I mean, a suicide behind you as you're cuffing.
And think about it, in today's day and age, it would have been suicide by a cop. I mean,
no, he just did it right there.
He did it to himself. It wasn't, I don't know what would have been worse, that or him coming out with a gun and me having to take his life.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the
never
day,
trained for that.
No.
Well, you do train for it.
Well, I'm saying in that regard, as far as like you're cuffing a person, and all of a sudden the person blows his head off.
No, but
True.
But I was wrong. I was wrong because I knew I should have pulled him back. But who knows? If I would have pulled him back, maybe the dude would have came out and started. You don't know.
Yeah, you just never know what would have happened. Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, that was one of those situations. And I've been involved. I was fortunate that I got to do a lot of things at my department there was only a few things I didn't get a chance to do. I was not a school resource officer because I did not want to be. I did not. My ex-wife was a teacher. I just didn't want to be in that setting. However, I did teach I implemented a teen driver safety class. I thought that was the article you were going to bring up.
Oh, no.
Because I actually took my son to a training class that was hosted by a guy out of Corona PD. And I was like, dude, I really like this class. I told my boss about it. He goes, bring it to Upland. So I ended up bringing that program.
Okay.
And I used to
That's
teach.
pretty cool.
I taught that for the teen drivers on my own. And so I got an award for that. That's the one that I thought you were going to talk about.
No,
I got an OTS award for that.
Yeah, see, so I like to bring up something like always positive and not so negative, because some people, we don't want to, I mean, we can when we find things, but we're like, oh, we won't do that.
No, and so anyway, so I was never I was never a school resource officer, although I did do a lot of work with the school resource officers when I became a detective. That was my caseload. I wasn't interested in SWAT per se, because all my door kicking stuff I did in the Marine Corps. And I was like, I mean, the idea is cool. And, that song always sticks in my head, that, it always sticks in my head. But I'm like, I'm too old for that now. That there are guys in my department that SWAT is life, and more power to them, because there has to be people in this world
like
for
that,
right? Mm-hmm. And then K9, I didn't do K9 because I wanted to do K9, but I had dogs on my own, and K9's a big responsibility.
Absolutely.
And then I wanted to be a motor, and I ended up taking over the traffic unit, but they wouldn't send me to motor school because I had heart surgery.
Oh,
okay.
And so they're like,
always some little thing with that kind of prevented you from doing.
I did ride a motor, but I never did enforcement on a motor because I have an M1. I was able to, but in order to be a motor enforcement officer, you got to go through all kinds of training.
A lot going on.
And that training is super intense. And my love goes out to the traffic unit. They do got to go through a lot, and it's an intense, brutal training.
I believe it.
And so, but instead of going the SWAT side, I went through hostage negotiations, crisis negotiations. So I was a crisis negotiator.
That's intense.
And that is very intense. We did a lot of training, and it's funny because right now, if I were to tell you I was shy to speak to people, you'd be like, "This dude's full of shit. He won't shut up." But when I was younger, I was scared to talk in front of people.
Crazy.
And it was, and so
I would never put that together.
You put all your experiences, you bring them together, and everything falls.
Here's another fun fact about him. Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you not graduate from the University of
Southern California?
Yep.
Yes, I did. I didn't want to bring that up because everybody gives me at work. They used to give me a bunch of razzing.
Graduated from USC.
So,
USC, huh?
So I ended up. I was not a big fan of school because I did so bad in school.
Yeah.
And my ex-wife was like, she's very good at school, and she was like, we were fresh together, and she was like, can you take this class with me? And I'm like, she was going to Chaffey College, and I'm like, yeah.
That's where I'm currently at right now.
I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this. And she goes, yeah, I don't want to do it by myself. So I ended up going back with her, and I started taking some classes with her, and I realized, it's not as hard as it used to be when I was in high school. So I ended up going to Chapman University. I had the same instructor, Chief Doyle. His name was Chief Doyle. He used to be the Ontario chief. He was my professor at Chaffey College, but he was also my professor at Chapman University.
Interesting.
Oh, wow.
And I loved his classes.
That's pretty cool, though.
The funny thing was, Chaffey College, I'm paying $14 a unit. At Chapman University, I was paying a whole lot more.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, for sure.
So I ended
That's
up
expensive. Yeah.
I went to Chapman University, and I was going part-time. So I got my bachelor's degree in criminal justice with a minor in sociology. But I started in the criminal justice program because I was really into it. But then sociology hit me, and I really went to so I actually have more sociology training than criminal justice, but because I didn't declare it as a major and I didn't declare a double major, I graduated with my major as criminal justice, but I actually had more in sociology, but sociology is my minor.
Man, you are stacked up. I
telling
mean,
you.
between the experience with the Marine Corps, of growing up in New York, and then
as
getting
an
your
immigrant.
degree as an immigrant, and just
So-
doing it all like that. Like you're right about the experience part, like just coming through with it, and I think that reflects on why your career was so successful, and that's probably why you retired, like as a lieutenant from the Upland, Upland PD, which is not it's not a bad feat, right? Like
No, and you know what? It's a great department. They've it's undergone a lot of change over the last. I was with Upland for 20 and a half years, but it's changed a lot because you got to remember, my tow company was in Upland for 9 years, and then I worked for Martinez Towing for 3 years. So I've been in Upland since 1992. So
that's when the 210 wasn't even around yet.
210 wasn't there.
Yeah, it was
at
still
all.
Everybody had to travel on foothill.
So I remember I've been in Upland long enough. I mean, Upland's been a part of my life for a long time, and so I had mixed feelings about going to Upland. I just didn't initially. I didn't feel like I was going to fit in Upland.
Right.
And when I think of, like I said, when I think about being a cop, I was thinking, I almost left Upland to go to San Bernardino PD.
You wanted the action.
I wanted the action, but then, something inside my mind was telling me, you could chase the rabbit as long as you want, man, but sometimes the rabbit's gonna catch you, and you gotta be careful. And San Bernardino, like I could go into Pomona, and I did. I used to work gangs, so even though Pomona is LA County and we were San Bernardino County, we often worked together. So we did gang sweeps
bordering counties.
And I mean, I dealt with gangsters, hardcore gangsters, but you know what? I knew how to talk to them. Right. And I gave them the amount of respect that they needed. And in return, I let them know, look, dude, I'm gonna give you respect. Just give me the same, And I know you're gonna do what you need to do, and I respect that. And I'm gonna do what I need to do, and I respect that, and it's cool. Every now and then, I came across somebody who would get, real chipper. And it's usually when they had either some chicks around them or some dudes, and then occasionally I'd pull them aside and I'd say, look, dude, privately, I'd say, this isn't going to go the way you're expecting it to go. At the end of the day, I'm going to win here. So
for sure.
So in an effort to save face, let's just agree to be respectful to each other.
Fair enough.
And then we walk back, and you know what? Clean slate, give them a little bit of respect. They gave me some respect back. Dude did what he had to do. I did what I had to do, and everything was
probably
cool.
why you had a lot of respect, and you moved up the ranks and did what had to be done. We're talking with a retired lieutenant from the Upland PD who's had a fascinating story already about all the stuff that he's done. I mean, compiling everything together. Maurice Mo Duran. I didn't the degree from USC threw me to another curveball. It kind of threw me out there.
I ended up.
Yeah, that's pretty cool though.
I ended up going. I got my bachelor's in 2007, and then fast forward to 2014, I felt like I want to go back to school.
Hey Mo, we're gonna have to wrap up because we're running out of time here, and I can see the ticker already moving fast. So give us some a word of advice, to anybody that's looking to do law enforcement, like Rojo wants to do it, and just give us what you think.
He's probably gonna tell me to give up already though.
Nah,
just
look,
kidding.
You know what? Law enforcement has to be a calling.
Yeah.
You can't go. You can't go into law enforcement half-ass. I used to do personnel and training. We'd do interviews and we'd talk to people, and why do you want to be a cop? Why do you want to be a cop? And trust me, people will tell us all the time, uniform looks badass. I want to drive fast. I like carrying a gun. I can respect all that. That's part of it. But why do you want to be a cop? And honestly, most of us that become cops want to become cops because we do want to do something for people. Now, I know that there are people out there that will disagree, and I know there are people out there that say that's not the thing. It is, because you're not going to put your line on the line for somebody else if that's not what you mean. And if you're not willing to put your life on the line for somebody else, don't do it. Don't do it.
Word of advice. I like it.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks Mo for giving us your
much.
incredible story, man. I'm gonna have a lot of time editing this bad boy
ball
together.
game. Field it with that one.
I sure am, man. But we appreciate it, bro. We appreciate it. Very cool. Next time on Tap to Media, I got a real quick one inspirational quote before we head out. And we always do this at the end of the show. So I picked this one up because I was thinking about your work ethic and how much you were saying you liked what you did, especially in the towing company and things like that. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. And that was said by Steve Jobs. And I'm pretty sure we all have had an Apple product in our lives at one time or another.
Sure do.
That one right here.
I'm Russ. That's Rojo. This is retired Lieutenant
Living the life now.
Sorry, Duran. This is Tapped In Media. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Head on over to the next video. It's either over here or it's over here. It's going to be on one of the sides. I'm going to get it down one day, man.
One day you'll
I'm going to get it down, but it's on one of these sides right here. Go ahead and
Until then, you're just
hit
a
the
total.
sub or hit something. I don't know. All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care of yourselves.